Good evening, everybody. Welcome into the Odd Rhythm Fantasy Studios. It's a Wednesday. It's actually a Hump Day Wednesday. I mean, I don't know for how many of us are humping today, but I mean, you're with us
I
tonight.
got a bed back here.
Hey.
I'm ready to do some humping. Let's do some humping.
Oh my God. If you guys haven't seen, Eli is doing some odd, weird stuff on the screen. Yeah, it's just kind of odd and weird.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but
We got
anyways.
Jay. Well, I was gonna say Jay was gonna finish up the intro, but I was so excited, man. Uh, we've been doing this show, close to about a year and a half now. Like, this is the first time I've had decent connection. Actually, have a decent. I'm actually wired in. You'd be like, where was this? A while ago, Eli. Well, it's here. I told you it was coming. So me and Jay are actually synced up for a change. We're not. There's no 2-3 second delay. So this is beautiful. And I just had to show my celebration. Keep talking. I'm gonna.
Oh my God. Yeah, yeah. He's all happy over there. But anyways, guys, welcome into Odd Rhythm Fantasy Sports. We are sorry, I'm a little sick, so our intro was not our not normal for our college spotlight because I always do one for the guy we are covering. So I didn't get that done. I was plain sick. I'm still kind of sick, but I'm feeling better. So I'm like, I had that on my mind, and I'm like, oh crap. So we're actually covering Ray Davis today. So if you guys haven't, make sure if you guys want to join our Discord, the link is actually in the description below. Make sure you guys also follow us on Apple, Spotify, and Google Play too as well for our audio side of stuff. And I haven't really posted any of our audio stuff here lately. The last one was kind of garbage, and I didn't want to upload that. I have our Cody Schrader in the word. I have the Cody Schrader there, but I just didn't finish the rest of the stuff for that. But yeah, other than that, yeah, that's hopefully you guys can join us. Subscribe to our channel if you guys like what we're doing here with all these college spotlights. Let us know in the comments section below. In the live comment, or I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Yeah.
Hey, he's playing hurt. He's sick. We did a stream about a month ago. I was sick. I was delirious. I thought I was gonna pass out on my desk here. So cut him a little slack tonight. If he forgot to mention, we have a whole playlist of all the college spotlight guys that we've done since September. I think we started with Riley Leonard, or it was him or Brock Bowers, one of those two, back in September. So we got 6 months worth of college spotlights. And hell, we just got the combine, numbers in. So some of those things have changed. Obviously, they might have a different 40 time. It's got might be an inch taller and shorter, weight. So that might have changed, or they're projected round where they're picked, or overall ranking. All that kind of stuff is I mean, it's subjective to change. It's been 6 months, but if you want to go back and watch all those guys, it'll introduce you to them, because a lot of these guys are going to be on your team. I mean, look. Example today, I didn't include in the scroll, but the Panthers cut Hayden Hurst today. So I would bet money that they are going to take a tight end pretty high. They're, maybe second, third round. There's going to be a new starting tight end for the Panthers. So, I mean, that kind of stuff. What? Wait a second. Do we have, it's, I'm so excited. I'm just so Jay doesn't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I got a good connection tonight. I want to jump more on the bed, but we can't do that anymore. It's not a trampoline. I might need a new mattress after this. But yeah, Ray Davis will be up there. Have a whole YouTube playlist. Bunch of guys in there. Ray Davis will be the newest to the archive. Go back and watch all of those. Is the point I was trying to get to. I'm just so excited. And I just can't hide it. Look at this. Twisted Tea. It's so good. I wish I had a big one filled, big glass filled with ice with a bunch of Twisted Tea in there. That's what I need.
There you go. That's what you really do need. But yes, you were gonna say something along the tight ends of the Panthers, and you got sidetracked there for a moment.
Yeah. So obviously they don't have a first round pick because they're retarded, and they they traded DJ Moore and a bunch of stuff away to the Bears for Bryce Young, which ended up being one of the worst picks ever. Bryce Young can't play. I've said it. This is probably the 5th or 6th time I've said it. Bryce Young can't play. So if they did have a first round pick, obviously they'd be taking Caleb Williams or Drake May, one of those guys. I think Brock Bowers is too, he's a tight end. He ain't going 1. He's probably won't even go in the top 10, honestly, because it's just not where tight ends are usually taken. I mean, the Falcons probably have buyer's remorse from taking Kyle Pitts a couple years ago, but I would say early 2nd round, Panthers should be taking somebody, and we got a list. We got a list of guys. Obviously, Brock Bowers will be probably the only one going in the first round, but we've got a couple other ones we've done profiles on, including Dallin Holker from Colorado State, who we like a lot. He might be a third-day guy that you could steal in the 4th, 5th round. He could be the next Isaiah Likely, because Isaiah Likely was from Coastal Carolina, and now we say it all the time. We think he's better than probably 15 tight ends in the league. He could start it's just that he's behind Mark Andrews. So I think the Panthers will be gun to my head, I'm not sure. I'd have to research it a little bit more in terms of what exact tight end, but yeah, it'll be a second. I think it'll be an early 2nd or 3rd round pick. The Panthers take a tight end for sure.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me.
Any other? While we're on this and kind of slightly distracted, or maybe it's me. Is there any other NFL news that you noticed, the past weekend or the past couple days that you wanted to talk about?
It's up. No, it's all good. No, I think, well, most of it came down to, I know there was a lot of people that were cut, I know the Bills did a lot of cutting
cleaning.
people. Yeah, they said they saved almost 35 some odd $1 million in the cap. Far as I know, they actually did some roster construction with Von Miller, so he stays on the team, and then I think they were going to do something else with Trubisky too as well. So he's actually on the team as well. So I'm like, yeah.
If there was ever a time, where's that little John? What? What? Yeah, Mitch Trubisky. What is this?
Yeah, that's far as
out of the league. He should be starting in the UFL. The Roughnecks or whatever, one of those teams. Get him out of here. I don't ever want to hear. But inevitably, man, there will be a game this year because of especially if they add an 18th game, coming up here. Mitch Trubisky's gonna end up starting a game somewhere.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, because Carson Wentz started week 18 last year. So, I mean, it's inevitable Mitch Trubisky's going to start, but it just blows my mind. Guys like him, Von Miller, we don't usually talk defense, but Von Miller's been a bust with Buffalo. He's been stealing money from them. I don't know why they wouldn't cut him. I mean, after what the Broncos did with Russell Wilson, eating $85 million in their cap.
That's insane.
I don't know why any team, obviously Sean Payton hated him, the coach, but I don't know why any team wouldn't just eat money. After that, if you're willing to eat $85 million, why can't you eat $20 million for Von Miller or, and so on? Some of these guys that are just, Von Miller is like my age. He's 34, 35 years old, dude. It's time to call it a day. He shot. It's time to retire.
Yeah, for sure. Just a couple quick headlines here. Josh Jacobs, he didn't get tagged. Baker Mayfield sounds like he might. Hopefully Baker can actually stay with the Bucks, because that will help Mike Evans, Godwin, and Palmer. So hopefully, maybe I hope Buccaneers can actually try to work out something for him so he can actually stay. Pittman, he actually got tagged, which is great. Yep. Hayden Hurst you already said that. So
T. Higgins, Jay, they franchised him with the Bengals. I was gonna ask you, since he's probably, if not the best, he's in the top 3 or 4 of potential free agents. Do you think the Bengals sign him to a long-term deal, or do you think they're tagging him and then trying to do a sign and trade? Like, what do you think happens there? Because I can't imagine he'd be happy on a 1-year deal. He'll take it because it's going to be 25, 28 million, like something crazy.
Yeah, from the sounds of it, it sounds like they tagged him with a possible trade. So that it'd be hard for them to try to actually maybe get a deal done with him because I'm sure just because of cap space and whatnot. So taking him probably this first time around and maybe trying to get rid of him, I'm sure there's a team out there that would want him. So from rumors, it sounds like they might want to trade off of him. Who knows? He might get traded during the draft. Never know. Barkley, he's actually free agent, which is nice. And then I think that was kinda it for most of the news. We heard, Mike Evans, he re-signed with the Bucks, so that's awesome there. So he hopefully should be staying with the Buccaneers for the rest of his career now, so I'm sure you're happy about that with him not having to go somewhere else and staying with the Bucks, and I guess here, quick question, even though he did stay there with the Bucks, how do you feel him maybe not getting a Super Bowl ring?
Uh, in terms of getting another one, no. I mean, he got his
Yeah,
ring, with our 2020 team. So that's out of the way. I think he needs. Obviously, he's had 10,000-yard seasons. So, but these stats today are so inflated. Like, I don't know if that automatically puts him in the Hall of Fame. But I think if he had like these last 2 years, the 2-year deal he signed, he puts up 2 more 1,000-yard seasons. Yeah, it's automatic first ballot. 12 of 12 1,000-yard seasons. That's going to automatically put him in the Hall
yeah,
of Fame for sure. But fantasy wise, yeah, like how it affects us and Baker. It's great because, like I said, you're not asking Trey Palmer to step up and be something he's not. You can now take. I mean, this is a receiver rich draft. I mean, we've talked about a ton of them in our spotlights. So we'll be able to take a guy 4th, 5th round that can step in, be the 5th receiver. And so guys can just slot in where they're supposed to be because Mike Evans is still a 1. I doubted him last year. I had him a little lower on our preseason list, and I wasn't sure. I was like, he's getting up there in age, but I'm not going to doubt Mike Evans anymore. And Devontae Adams is actually a year older than Mike Evans, and he's still highly productive. Tyreek, I think, is a year younger. So there's guys in his age range that are still tearing it up. So I you know what, Mike Evans, at least for 2024, shouldn't drop off in value at all. I don't think he's not gonna boom. I mean, he's not Jamar Chase or anything, but
yeah, for sure.
I think he's gonna stabilize. I think he's gonna stay right where he is. Give or take, 100 yards receiving and maybe a couple touchdowns. So it's not gonna affect fantasy owners, I don't believe. But I love it. I personally, as a diehard Bucks fan, like I love the deal, and
Yeah.
we got to get Baker signed too.
Yeah, yep. I have to agree because I think that only add I mean, I know you don't like Trask and stuff like that because you dog on
Oh
him
no,
any chance you get.
no, 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 no.
But yeah, other than that, I think we need to get Baker re-signed unless they think they can get Wilson down in there. But I don't know. That'll be a long shot. But
No, I don't want. I get why teams are interested because he's cheap. Like I said, Broncos are eating 85 million over the next couple years. So I mean,
yeah,
it is what it is. So it's basically you're getting Russ for the price of a rookie. Like
yep,
a first, second round pick is what he's kind of. So he's going to have some value to if you're the Raiders or the Falcons, a team with a bad quarterback. But like I said,
yeah,
Baker, a couple years in Cleveland and last year with Tampa has been a top 20, borderline top 15 quarterback. Just in productivity. I mean, fantasy might be a little bit different because he had 28 touchdowns last year. He might be closer to the top 10, but just in terms of like just playability, he's definitely on the border of the better half of the quarterback. So, and that's better than Russell Wilson. I think right now, hot take. I don't know if it's a hot take or not, but Baker Mayfield's better than Russell Wilson at this point.
oh
I
yeah,
don't think.
I would have to agree. The Q says Evan sounds like he wants to play for KC, but I agree. Mike is definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer. Yep. If you think about what Jerry Rice did, like when he played after 1,000-yard season after season after season, I mean he's doing the same thing as Jerry Rice is what he was doing, and I think he could probably if he can actually surpass. I think he's pretty close. I think if he does, I think it's this year. If he does that, I think he'll tie him. And I think the following year, if he does it one more time, and he'd be the all-time, like, in that category far as, back-to-back, 1,000-yard seasons. I know this year was getting pretty close for him doing that. I think he was I have to go back and take a look, but I know he was in that conversation.
Yeah, and it's a durability thing too. It's like
Mhm.
obviously his high end. I mean, Mike Evans is damn good. He's been damn good for a long time. His high end is not as high as Justin Jefferson. Like Justin Jefferson, when he's right, when he's healthy, it's him or Chase one A. And Mike Evans has never been the top receiver in the NFL in any of these 10 years. He's always been a top 10 guy. So I mean, his high end isn't as good, but just how you can trust him. He's not going to go down like Jamar Chase went down. Some of these other guys, they're like the guy you just mentioned from the Colts, Pittman Jr. Like I said, his productivity in the 4 years has kind of been, it's been good, but it's been up and down. There's been no, like 13 touchdown season or some monster fantasy year. Mike Evans has had some monster seasons. Obviously, he's done it with different quarterbacks. Yeah, the guy is just, and he's great for the community. There's just a bunch of stuff outside of football. I mean, he's, like I said, he's a buck for life. He's going to go down as the best receiver in the history of the franchise. I mean, no doubt. And obviously, the stats have changed because they've added a 17th game, possibly an 18th game coming up. So, the stats are going to be a little skewed or an asterisk or something, but that's still, I mean, but you look at quarterback numbers. I mean, Peyton Manning still has the record of 55 touchdowns. I don't think that's ever going to be broken, even with an 18th game.
Yeah.
Just the way offenses are going now. Now you have guys, the top guy will put up 38. Like you'll be like Dak or some guy like that putting up 35 to 40 touchdowns. I think the era of the 55 touchdown might have passed, with Mahomes and Peyton Manning and Marino, those kind of guys.
All right.
So,
Just a quick note.
Yeah, go ahead.
He is wide receiver 31 he's ranked wide receiver 31 right now, but 80th.
Too low.
But 80th overall in player ranking right now. So he is kind of in that tier 11. He's kind of going around with guys like Debo, Brian. He's in the mix of Brian Thomas Jr., George Pickens, Stephon Diggs, Devonta Adams, and Terry McLaurin. So I guess
they're low. I was gonna say, Jay, they're super low on Stephon Diggs. I mean, and that's not the list you just mentioned, but I've seen a couple other outlets too. They're super low on Stephon Diggs. I don't know who he pissed off in the media or what. Or they're just tired of his diva behavior. But if they view him like that, and he kind of causes headaches for Josh Allen, it might be time to move off Stephon Diggs too. Like maybe Stephon Diggs is traded coming up in the next month or two. That'd be another guy to we're all assuming Mike Evans was going to go to Kansas City or another contender, Baltimore, team like that. But it might actually be Stephon Diggs as the, kind of the veteran star receiver on the move. Okay. On that.
Yeah, but that was kind of most of the NFL news kind of lately here, and then we kind of dived into Mike Evans, unfortunately, because anytime he gets to talk about the Buccaneers, he can go for hours and hours on end about talking about the Buccaneers here. Oh, hey, look, there's a furry thing back there. He's walking around.
Oh, there he woke up.
Yep, he woke up. But yes, I think it's time for us to actually get into what people are here for. We are actually going to dive into Ray Davis from Kentucky Wildcats.
Yes. It's crazy. I've been living in the Stone Age. I don't think you guys understand. Any guys that have been watching this show for a while, like how long it used to take these graphics to load up when I'd click on it. It's amazing. I stepped into 2024. I've been living in 1999. I might as well have had a gateway computer here. Go.
That's what he's feeling right now.
Yeah. Gateway computer 0250. Hell yeah. Let's talk about some Ray Davis here. Where do I start? I love a lot of stuff about this guy. I really do. Yeah, shocking. I know. So prospect ranking. I've been using NFL Draft Buzz. Obviously, there's a couple other places too. PFF, ESPN. There's a bunch of different outlets. I just prefer PFF, and that's kind of the one we've been going with the last couple months. So we're just gonna, for consistency, we'll just stay with it. And this is post combine, so this is the most recent. This is as of today. He's the 104th ranked prospect, 8th ranked running back. Right now, he's projected to go in the 4th round. He's about an inch. So a couple places had him listed at 5'10", 220. He ain't that. He measured in at 5'8", 211. So now we have some of these guys. And if you go back and watch any of the previous spotlights, like I said, it might be a little bit different with height, weight, 40 times. But now you're going forward with these other the spotlight guys we're going to be doing the next couple weeks. They're all going to be up to date. So he is 5'8", 211. Ran a 4.5, 240, which, for a running back, that ain't bad. I mean, there's obviously he's not Jalen Wright. He's not running a 4.31 that, we covered Jalen Wright last week. He's not a burner like that, but, good enough NFL speed. And he's a bruiser. I mean, this guy is physical. He runs through people, can catch out of the backfield. You probably seen on the bottom below on the scroll, the guy had 7 receiving touchdowns last year and caught, almost 400 yards in receiving yards, or I should say over 300 yards. And for a college running back, I don't think people understand how impressive that is, because they don't use the running back out of the backfield as much in college. So this is in the NFL. If you put up 300 something yards receiving in the NFL as a running back, yeah, it's to be expected. Yeah, if you want to stay in the league or be productive, that's like your floor. 250, 300 yards. If you're not hitting that in the modern NFL, I mean, there's the bench or we'll cut you. So I found that impressive, and he stepped it up too, because spent 2 years at Temple, which is Temple's that's not really a football school. I mean, people probably heard of Temple, with John Chaney, I think, was the basketball coach for years. I mean, that's how people probably know Temple. They don't think of football when they think of Temple, but he was there for 2 years, had a really good freshman year, kind of fell off his sophomore year there, transferred over to Vanderbilt. Jay's got that up. That'll help me here. Yeah, had a really, I mean, that's a damn good freshman year anywhere. 936, 8 touchdowns. Obviously 2020 I mentioned. 2021 didn't do much anything his first year at Vanderbilt. Second year, yeah, that's for the SEC, having over 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns. That's respectable. It's not anything to pop or raise you up anybody's draft board or anything, especially at 5'8", 211. It's not anything to write home about. But you look at his 2023, over 1,100 yards, 14 touchdowns, and then you include the 7 touchdowns receiving. Let's see. I'm sorry, I screwed that up. So it's 33 receptions, 323 yards. I thought it was closer to 400, but yeah, a little over 300 yards receiving there. So 21 combined total touchdowns. That's going to get anybody's attention, especially, Jamie does a lot more college fantasy than I do, and a lot of guys out there have probably had Ray Davis, a few shares of him, and anything that they were doing fantasy related. Just, the weaknesses, I mentioned all the good stuff. He can catch out of the backfield. He's physical. Not a burner, which not a lot of backs are. I mean, really, when you think about home run hitters, there's not as many as you think. I mean, they talk, he doesn't have top end speed. He doesn't have this. He doesn't. It's like, no, a lot of guys don't, and they're still heavily productive running backs. Devin, I was going to say, man, Devin Singletary ran like a 4.66 40 time at his combine. And Devin Singletary has had a pretty, not like a Pro Bowl, all pro level career, but Devin Singletary's had a lot of solid years with the Bills and Texans. And, he kind of has a slow 40 time. So
I think it comes down to like some of these running back, these kind of these bigger running backs, they're quick, but they can kind of get you some of those good chunk yards.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's
not straight line.
Like, no,
unless you're playing for the Dolphins. I don't mean to cut you off, but unless you're playing for the damn Dolphins, and that's that whole thing, that whole scheme of theirs is based on speed. A-Chain, Mostart, the receivers. That, and I don't think they're stacked at running back. They're not going to take Ray Davis. I don't think they're going to take any running back. So that'd be the only team where it's like, okay, you should be running at least a 4.4. If you're going to come play with us, we need you. But this guy's going to pick up the tough yards. What weaknesses, like I said, not a burner, not top end speed, and like a lot of these other backs, not really good at pass blocking. But I mean, you saw the way he improved from 2022 to 2023. So that and it's the same conference. Kentucky, it's a little better program than Vanderbilt, but it's not like he went from Vanderbilt to Georgia playing behind Georgia's offensive line, or went from Vanderbilt wherever, Alabama, name your SEC power, Ole Miss. It's not like he went and got a top end offensive line. So I was just impressed how he knew he had to work on his receiving game. He did, picked it up, 7 touchdowns through the year. I mean, that's the biggest number, because there's a lot of guys in college, man, that'll put up, even running backs will put up 300 something yards receiving, but the 7 touchdowns is what I look to. It's like, damn, okay, he's got, that's like Alvin Kamara stuff. And when I get to my comps here in a second, that was a guy that was in consideration of where his ceiling might be, and the floor, all that good stuff. But I love the jump, because just based on his first 4 years in college, once again, why I love the transfer portal. This has been another guy that went undrafted, just played. Hey, Vanderbilt's running back. Hey, then he's got to do it the hard way, like Keaton Mitchell and Tony Pollard, other undrafted guys that have done significant stuff in the NFL, which Jaylen Warren, who I'm going to mention here in a second, guys like that. But now he's going to probably be around a 4th round pick, maybe 5th round pick, somewhere in there. I think he's going to have great value for somebody. And so I'll get in. Speaking of value, I'll get into my teams here in a second. I'm going to go with my comp range here, because the pass blocking stuff, I mean, if Jay wants to comment on that, but it's like, I feel like we mention that with every running back we do. It's always pass blocking. It's like asking a college offensive lineman, like, hey, you need to be great now. It's like, no, we don't. Our schemes are different. Like, we get to Green Bay, we get to a Dallas, we get to a great offensive line team that knows what they're doing. They're gonna make the tackle great, the center. Just asking a running back to be able to pass block at 19 years old, 20 years old, that's asking a lot, and not a lot of them can do it. I think when he gets to his destination, he'll be just fine. Let me see. And I've seen him. I watched highlights, and I've seen some plays where he jacks some defenders up. I mean, he's not afraid of contact, which I like. He's not a finesse running back at all. So comp range, I'd say his floor, and I just mentioned him a second ago, is Jaylen Warren, which is, kind of a serviceable, kind of a backup.
Damn it.
Role. I don't even know what to call Jaylen Warren, because technically Najee Harris is the starting back with Pittsburgh, but he reminds, the size, the 40 time, the physical play, just the kind of his running style. Just that when I look through all the running backs, that I was like, I don't see Ray Davis being a bust. I don't see him being out of the league in 2 years. I see him kind of has his floor, maybe as a complimentary guy, 500 something yards, maybe 300 yards receiving, kind of that level guy. That's his floor, where he's not a superstar, but he's a guy you've heard of in fantasy. Like, we all heard of Jaylen Warren. We had to pick him up on the waiver wire, in like a 12-man redraft league in, week 6 or something. So we've all, he'll be one of those guys you've heard of playing fantasy. The middle ground, I'm going to say Javonte Williams from Denver, because I think Javonte is a little bit better than Jaylen Warren. I think that's kind of the middle ground. Like I said, similar 40 times, similar size, similar running style. I could see, and I think what's hurt Javonte is his injuries. I think if he was healthy, he'd be a top 15 running back. So I think that's kind of the middle ground of where he could end up, 800, 900 yard running back. Not a Pro Bowl, all pro level guy, but solid. Maybe enough to start a season, or at least get a lot of carries. In a system. Where they're obviously, not in San Francisco or Miami or places like that, but he could be a system like the Bears. The Bears kind of run a system, with Roschon and Khalil Herbert, Foreman, guys like that. He could be in a rotation. And then I think the ceiling is Josh Jacobs. I considered Alvin Kamara, but I don't know, a little bit different. I don't know if this guy can put up. I mean, we forget how good Alvin Kamara was in his prime a couple years ago.
Right?
Jamie single-handedly won a fantasy championship, I think in 2020 or 2019 with Alvin Kamara. Just I mean, some of the best numbers we've seen from a running, kind of the hybrid receiver running back since, LT, since LaDainian Tomlinson and got Priest Holmes, guys like that from years ago, and obviously what McCaffrey's doing now. But he was on that level, 4 or 5 years ago. And Kamara's numbers at Tennessee when he was in college were very similar. He had like 300 something yards his his last year at Tennessee receiving. So, it could go one or two ways with Ray Davis. He could go and be, catch 700, 800 yards receiving like Kamara did, or he can just stay where he's at and be more of like the other guy that I had him kind of stealing, Josh Jacobs, which I think is more realistic. Josh Jacobs a little bit taller, weighs a little more, but similar running styles, similar 40 times. Doesn't have the pedigree. Obviously, Josh Jacobs went to Alabama, but so just that's the vibe I got when I was watching him. I'm like, that's a high end guy. That's not like Hall of Fame. Like Josh Jacobs, not a Hall of Famer, but for a couple years there, he was a high end, probably top 5 running back or borderline
Here's
top 5. He's no longer
um
that. I don't think he's that anymore. Obviously, the Raiders are. You said they tagged him or they cut him.
who was that?
Josh Jacobs.
They did not tag him at all. So
Yeah, so
he's a
they're
free
ready
agent.
to move on. Yeah, they know he's peaked, so they're ready to move on from him too.
We talked about Kamara like when we were talking about Jalen Wright. Kamara, he didn't evolve more into a dual threat running back. It wasn't until he actually got into the NFL that where he was actually more of a pass catcher. So I mean a lot.
With Sean
Yeah.
Payton, yep.
Yep. So you didn't really see a lot of that when he was at Tennessee. So it wasn't, and that's where the thing where, you would think he wouldn't be a pass catcher. Next thing you know, I mean, he's a mix of being a top, a top 5 guy. You talk about all the time. Well, Kamara's up there with, a CMC or a Breece Hall, guys like that where they're catching balls out of the background, out of the backfield. If they're capable of actually getting a touchdown in there. So I mean, can Ray Davis be somewhat similar to guys like that? I mean, where he's already got that pedigree of he can catch balls out of the backfield, take chunk yards to the home field and get a touchdown. So I mean, is he a mix with guys like that now? I mean, not saying. I mean, maybe his floor can be that, but can he evolve into being somebody like that?
Yeah, and no, those are all good points, and it's kind of like a fork in the road. It's like, where does he go? Does he go more? I think he's going to be better in Jalen Warren, but I just put him as the floor. Is like, hey, that's where his absolute low end is, and it's like, do you go be more of a physical, blocking back kind of complimentary guy, or do you end up being a high end Pro Bowl level guy like Josh Jacobs was for a couple years? And people forget Josh Jacobs. 2021, 2022 caught over 50 passes, or at least 50 or more than 50 passes those 2 years. I think 500 yards, close to both of them. So those are even respectable receiving numbers for a running back. It's not Alvin Kamara, LaDainian Tomlinson, McCaffrey, those level guys, but it's still highly productive. I mean, I'll take 50 catches, 500 yards, and a couple touchdowns for my running back for sure. So that's the range I have. Do you have any other comments before I move on to my 5 teams? Kind of the spectrum I put up, or if you have your own spectrum, Jay, between Jalen Warren to Josh Jacobs.
Just a little bit. I thought maybe he looked a little bit like DeAndre Swift. Swift.
Yep.
So when I was, because not really much with the Lions because he didn't really, he didn't do a whole lot. But I was thinking more like what he did with the Eagles here. He's kind of that type of guy where he can, in open field, he can actually bust off a bunch of yards. And I was like, dude, with 7 touchdowns, he kind of reminded me a little bit of that, what Swift did this year with the Eagles. So I'm like, well, if he falls into a role like that, I mean, he could be their Swift,
Yeah, and he was, like I said, Kamara was a guy I was considering. DeAndre Swift was another guy I was considering, kind of in the middle tier range, the Javonte Williams. I just noticed that some of his numbers were a little bit different. They run similar, but some of DeAndre Swift's numbers were a little bit different than Ray Davis. So, but yeah, no, definitely if I expanded it to a list of 5 running backs, yeah, DeAndre Swift would definitely be in there because and hence why I'm going to have him in my 5 teams here, because he could end up replacing DeAndre Swift with the Eagles. And I'll start with the Eagles at 5. Usually I start with 1 and I go to 2, 3, 4. I'm going to start with 5 here. And I got a good suggestion last week about, what about the Eagles? You don't have the Eagles on. You have all these bad teams, or you have the Packers, or you have like, hey, they have an old running back, or the Patriots, or hey, they probably due for an upgrade. You know what? DeAndre Swift is an unrestricted free agent. Boston Scott is an unrestricted free agent. So they only have, decent running backs on the roster. Kenneth Gainwell is the only one they have under contract, so they're going to take a running back.
Yeah.
And I should have seen this before. I've been blinded by the light here.
I
should
say
have
so.
seen it. Yeah. And like I said, we just went over that. He's very similar to DeAndre Swift. It would be an easy transition. He's cheap. I mean, Ray Davis, if you can get him in the 4th round, he's going to be.
Their running backs are trash.
Jay, you're not. I know these running backs don't make very much, but there's a big, with I know the cap's going up too, but there's a big difference when you can get similar productivity. There's a big difference between a guy, Ray Davis make 700, like $800,000 to $1 million a year versus somebody that's going to want 9 or 10. Because if DeAndre Swift keeps playing like he did last year, he's going to be paid, $10 million. So that's a huge difference between $1 million and $10 million for similar productivity. So Eagles make sense at 5. Any thoughts on the Eagles before I move on to the Raiders?
I think he's a total upgrade over Kennedy Brooks, Kenneth Gainwell, Rashad Penny, and Boston Scott. Yeah, Boston Scott is pretty much those guys are kind of like your last resort in case somebody gets injured. Rashad Penny, we already know what he was. He was nothing with the Seattle, and yeah, it's kind of it.
And he's an unrestricted free agent too. Hey, this should be a YouTube short right here when we put in the algorithms and try to. Yeah, Rashad Penny has been a complete bust. He has disappointed people. I know he had a couple good games. I was at 2021 with Seattle. Am I thinking that far back? That's how long it's been since this clown has had any decent run in the NFL. Okay, he has been a huge disappointment. It's time for him to go away. He wants to keep playing football. Go to the UFL. I can't. Yeah, Rashad Penny. He's been fool's gold for a couple years. Get him out of here. Get him out of here. All right. You know what? Here we go. Right here. That's right. There we go. Get out of here. All right. Number 4, I have the Raiders. The Raiders I've had on a couple different lists, and this one makes sense. Obviously, I use Josh Jacobs as his absolute ceiling. Being a probably Pro Bowl level guy. And Josh Jacobs, like I said, they're letting him go. Zamir White, to me, is a complimentary back. Nothing more, nothing less. I know he's only been around for a year, and he might surprise me and have a 1,200-yard year. But I don't see that. So, why not Ray Davis? I think he'd look good in the silver and black, and they don't have a lot else on the Amir Abdullah. I think that's their other guy. Get out of here. No,
I think he's gone. He's not even listed. Oh yeah, he's there. Yep, he's there. He's been there for. They're been in NFL for 9 years. 9 years. 9 years.
Well,
he's been
there. I remember. Yeah, I think
Brandon Baldwin from fucking Patriots. From Patriot, Brandon Baldwin.
He's been around more than my sister, man. He has been like everywhere. And, yeah, I think he was at the Lions for a cup of coffee and a few other teams.
Patriots.
Yeah, they need a running back. Any thoughts on Ray Davis to the Raiders?
Yeah, they need help. Amir Abdullah, he was Nebraska. I remember him when he played for Nebraska. Brandon Baldwin, he was kind of something. Josh, Mazar? Is it Mazar? I don't know. I don't even know what I'm talking about. White, he spurts a little bit. I think if somebody did, if they did get a guy like him, he'd be, like you mentioned, a complimentary back there. The rest of these guys, this backfield's just horrible. They need depth, that's for sure. And a guy like him coming in would most definitely help that backfield quite a bit.
I agree. Let's move on to number 3. It never fails. I think they've been, since we started doing this with Ricky Pearsall, I think the Panthers have been on every top 5 list of all the potential teams. Yeah, fail. Because why the hell not? Miles Sanders, just like I said, I know running backs aren't paid like quarterback. Russell Wilson, terrible contract. Deshaun Watson, terrible contract. I get it. They're not getting paid $45, $46 million, $49 million. I get it. But Miles Sanders is now the worst running back contract in the league, at least, if not one of the worst contracts in general. The guy can't play. That 2022 Eagles team should Jason Kelsey, Steichen, all those guys should be given Christmas cards for the rest of their lives because they basically got Miles Sanders paid. Jalen Hurts got him paid. Everybody got this guy paid. Can't play. Hubbard, another guy like Zamir White, complimentary guy. Like he's proven his worth. I mean, I wouldn't mind if Hubbard was my second back, catching passes out of the backfield or kind of had a significant role. I have no issue with that. I think he's been a solid NFL running back. He's not a feature guy. Blackshear, he's junk. He's probably not going to be on the team. So yeah, they need some upgrades. I would say this is more of an upgrade than, hey, we're losing our feature back in free agency.
That's the sad thing is that I would take Chuba Hubbard over Miles Sanders just because.
Yeah,
Miles
I know. I would
Sanders
too.
Sucks.
I would. And the Panthers, that's what they benched. That's how bad it was. This guy, I think made the Pro Bowl in 2022 behind that Eagles offensive line. Had over 1,200 yards. I think 1,259, 11 touchdowns. I think it's just something ridiculous. Like, wow, this guy, he's another guy. Fool's gold. And it's like Cinderella. It hit midnight, the slipper came off, and now you're back to being a scrub. I definitely have Hubbard over him, and I think Ray Davis day one, like they take him in the 4th round. I think day one would be the second back. I think if you look at the Panthers depth chart, it would be probably Hubbard and then Ray Davis day one would be their second back. So that's another place where if you want to, in a dynasty league or a redraft, if you take. I think you said earlier off air that Ray Davis was ranked like 99 among running backs.
Yep.
So I don't know what round he'd fall into. We haven't looked at that yet in terms of just a redraft. Like if he'd be, in a typical 12-16 team league, if he'd be a middle round guy, late round guy.
I think he would be adult. I think he'd be a late flyer. It all depends on where the landing situation. I think maybe double digit rounds more than likely. I mean, he wouldn't be eight, around 8 or 9. I think he'd be more double digit round. Maybe 11, 12, depending on what kind of running backs are there. I mean, just speaking of that real quick, guys like Chase McMillan, Donovan Knight, Kevin Harris, Deion Jackson, Haskins. So I mean,
from Tennessee.
Yeah. So you can kind of get an idea. I mean, he's better than all. I mean, Donovan Knight. He was with the Lions. He didn't really see much playing time. He was with the Jets. So I mean, he's better than all these guys right now. And Haskins he'll be more likely a number 2 running back. With behind Spears, unless Titans draft another running back.
I think I was under the assumption, and I didn't include the Titans because it's like with the Panthers. I think one of these lists I do, I'm just going to take the Panthers off just for shits and giggles, just to so we're not always like this week I took the Titans and Packers off because I'm tired of putting them up there for needing running backs and stuff.
Well, I mean, there is one more we could talk about too. Maybe these guys they could be a number 2. Besides the Saints.
Yes,
and that would be the Vikings.
Yeah, no, definitely. They cut Madison. I think the Vikings would probably be an honorable mention here. They cut Madison. Chandler, he's another guy like Zamir White. I like as my complimentary guy, as my second, third back. I have no issue with that. But I need an upgrade as a feature guy. And I think why I didn't include the Vikings and Titans is because I think they're going to sign a feature guy. They're gonna, even if these guys are getting up there in age, I think they're gonna sign a Saquon. I think they're gonna sign a Derrick Henry. I think they're gonna sign a Josh Jacobs. Like you'll see some of these bigger name guys going to Minnesota, going to Tennessee, and so I kind of kept them off of there. And Philly, I mean, Philly's always, I mean, they're always aggressive. Philly will probably do that as well. But I based on the 5 teams, I was like, okay, they could. This is realistic. I could really see this.
Yeah.
Based on
more than likely.
And definitely. And we don't, in the Vikings, it's up in the air about Cousins yet. It's up in the air about Justin Jefferson. If they're going to, give him a monster deal, trade him, what the deal is there. Let's get back to the teams here. Panthers, just ick. Tired of talking about them. The new team, I haven't talked about the Saints yet. I put them at number 2. And we mentioned it, 10 minutes ago about Alvin Kamara. Like this guy could be another Alvin Kamara. I know that's blasphemy for some people, but Alvin Kamara was a 3rd round pick in 2017 out of Tennessee. I mean, nobody knew, if we had been doing the show back then, we probably, because we both liked Kamara in college, but I mean, and those Tennessee just and that's running back you. I mean, Tennessee is just cranking out NFL running backs left and right that are highly productive. I think Jalen Wright is next in line there, but
Yep.
yeah, that would be a natural transition. I mean, Kamara's going into his 8th year. I think he's getting a little long in the tooth. He's not quite what he was. Kendre Miller, I know you like him more than I do. He's solid, but I mean, we'll see if he can stay healthy, maybe be the number 3 back.
Yeah.
Jamal Williams, he's old. I think he's another guy. Like that's why I worried about Gus Edwards, like having this whatever his 12, 13 touchdown year just out of nowhere. I get worried about that. Miles Sanders a couple years ago. Like I said, Jamal Williams with the Lions a couple years ago had 17 touchdowns. He didn't score his first touchdown of the year until the last game of the season.
Right.
Jamal
and they actually had to do it on a play where the coach got pissed off at them, so it's just, and it's just like Jameis Winston is like, dude, I wanted him to get a touchdown in. So big deal. They made a big old issue about it. He called the play and did something way totally different. It's just like, come on now, Jesus Christ, Yeah,
just I mean, it was the Falcons. It was Arthur Smith being a little bitch, and we saw what happened with him. He got shit canned, and now he's the Pittsburgh OC. But yeah, I think that's a natural place where there's not a ton of competition. I don't think the Saints are going to sign anybody. So really, you're just trying to replace. I don't know. Would you call Alvin Kamara a Saints legend?
I mean, with
he didn't win a Super Bowl. He didn't win a Super Bowl, but I mean, he's been one of him and Deuce McAllister and a couple other guys have been some of their best running backs in the history of the franchise.
Darren Sproles.
Sproles was good. I don't think he's a legend though. Like Reggie Bush was good there. He wasn't a legend. I think Alvin Kamara is better. He might be better than Deuce McAllister. He might be, when it's all said and done, he might be the best running back in the history of the Saints franchise. Like better than Ricky
I would think so. I think so. I mean, I think they got themselves. He can be on their their wall of implanted on
ring.
Yeah.
And maybe the Hall of Fame if he stays healthy. And so I mean, we're just basing that off Kamara. He has a ton of equity there. He's a made man. I don't think they're going to cut Alvin Kamara unless he really, really falls off. Like he's part of the Saints lore. So, but yeah, Jamal Williams, I could see gone. Kendre Miller could, be 3rd, 4th running back. That's easily. Rest of the depth chart is just random guys that won't be on the team. So, Ray Davis would slot nicely in there. Gets to play in a dome. NFC South, get the beat up on he gets to run over the Panthers. I mean, that's a guarantee. If he's a feature guy, man, that's a guarantee. Playing the Falcons and the Panthers twice a year, that's a guaranteed 1,000 yards.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with you.
Okay. We'll do one more team here, and then I'll see what Jay's thoughts are on the Texans, and then we can move on to something else or close out the show because I think we're at 48 minutes here.
Yeah, I'll pop up my stuff too while you're while we're up in here yet.
Absolutely. Yep. Go ahead and put that up.
No.
I was thinking about this, man. I wasn't quite sure where to go with the number 1 spot. I would maybe Denver. I know what Sean Payton did with Kamara. I know he loves hard work. I mean, look what he did with McLaughlin. He loves those blue collar, hardworking running backs that can catch balls out of the backfield. He always has. Whether it was Reggie Bush, Darren Sproles, Kamara, all those guys, Pierre Thomas. So I thought maybe Denver might be a good spot. So and Denver might maybe 4th, 5th round. Maybe Denver's the surprise team here, and they end up taking Ray Davis. But I put the Texans at 1 because let's see, they got Dameon Pierce is about the only running back on their roster. I would assume they're going to sign a Derrick Henry or some stud running back to go with CJ Stroud and some of the stuff some of the big things they're trying to do next year. But if they're looking for a young guy that can replace these middle level guys, I don't see Singletary coming back, and Dameon Pierce, another fool's gold Cinderella, struck midnight on him. Guy, we've said it a couple times. Middle of 2022, before he got hurt, I think it was week 9 or week 10. He was the leading rusher in the NFL. And a year and a half later, he's on the verge of being like a 3rd, 4th running back or being cut. That's how quickly things change. James Robinson, like that, he was, now he's like, he's being passed around like prison cigarettes. He's getting passed around practice squads right now. So I could see Ray Davis day 1 beating out Dameon Pierce and Singletary. I don't see him coming back. But if they bring a veteran like Derrick Henry in, Derrick Henry is going into his ninth year.
Probably, I think.
So Derrick Henry's not going to be there very long if they sign him, for example, or Saquon. Saquon, you can never trust his health. So I think the Texans, he could be a deceptive guy, a deceptive like 4th round guy that we don't see coming that could end up being the surprise rookie, the surprise 1,100-yard guy that we're like, whoa. Any thoughts on Ray Davis to the Texans?
I mean, it's not a bad situation, but it's I think Devin Singletary might be in the out. I think they'll keep Dameon Pierce just because he's still under a contract. He's only been there for a couple years, and if their number one guy does go down, he can you think about it. He would have had 1,000-yard season if he didn't get injured. So if they do bring in Barkley, I mean, he could be that number 2 in that offense there. And it wouldn't be a bad situation if he did land there. I mean, he's better than Devin Singletary. I mean, I never really liked Singletary much, even though he came from FSU. He was a top prospect at that time, and catching, stuff out of the backfield. But, FSU was more of a small school. He never really played against a lot of, high end, like, top, the top teams, I'm talking about, like, Alabama, Tennessee, and, so he didn't really play against like NFL style, defenses and stuff like that. So I think, Ray Davis would be a lot better in that situation in that offense if it did come to that.
Yeah, and Devin Singletary never had a game like the Ray Davis had against Florida this year. 280 yards, 3 touchdowns, just destroyed them. In Alabama, he even had a couple touchdowns against Alabama, had a good game against Georgia. Like these are top end. I mean, Alabama and Georgia, those are basically NFL defenses. I mean, so that's another factor. That's why we were so high on Cody Schrader too. Cody Schrader was doing this all against SEC defenses. Like this isn't the Mountain West, conference or some FCS team.
Yeah, I mean,
is that the fantasy numbers for Ray?
Yep, it is. It sure is.
Go down the list. Let's see here. A lot of those guys look like they're underclassmen, except for obviously Ray Davis and Cody. But he was the number 1 fantasy running back in the SEC.
Yep, he sure was. Yep, 304 fantasy points. I was just kind of looking. I was going to kind of see where if he was in the NFL this year, where would he kind of fit in with the fantasy points aspects of this. And, he would kind of fall right between Alvin Kamara and Jahmyr Gibbs, right in between that 308 and 296 fantasy points, bringing, must start, Bijan, so he would have been kind of in that mix of guys, with his fantasy, outlook here, with, what he put up this year and kind of fantasy realistic, it was like, well, and that's what I was kind of looking at too. And, and the other thing too is that, I kind of divided down, his yardage, and he was doing about almost 83 yards, 83 yards, per game, give or take in there. That was kind of the average. So I mean, he's kind of a workhorse, but then not really a workhorse. You'd have some good blow up games, but not then really. You would have some crappy shitty games. Like against Bama, 2 for 26. But he had 2 touchdowns, but I'm sure those were at the end zone kind of thing. Tennessee, 16 for 42 and a touchdown. Georgia, they were ranked number 1. 15 for 59 yards and only a receiving touchdown up in there. So I mean, he played against some caliber teams, but it didn't really pan out too well. Like the Gators, they were 22nd. I mean, they were so. I mean, that's almost bottom 20, top 25, kind of here, there, kind of good, but not really great. He put up that 280 yards, 3 touchdowns and a receiving touchdown against that game. Ball State, 4 for 112 yards, 2 touchdowns. So I mean, he's kind of, I think he'll be kind of a hit and miss player. We want he'll be a guy we want to draft, but he'll probably have his bumps and bruises coming in this year.
Yeah, well, no, he won't be. there's very few guys you can count on every week. I mean, if he's healthy, obviously Christian McCaffrey. I
Yeah.
think Jahmyr Gibbs is in that conversation going forward. Jahmyr Gibbs, he puts it together. He's like the modern Alvin Kamara. If he doesn't get you the rushing, you're going to get the receiving. So you're guaranteed to have a decent fantasy day. And then kind of further down the list, I don't know. I'm curious to see where obviously where he lands, and then kind of his average productivity. And we do this in March. I mean, this is March 6th. Obviously, we're gonna know more when he's drafted. End of April. We're gonna know. Like off season. The workout, training camp, and the preseason. We're gonna know a lot more as to what his for sure value is gonna be. This is all just our projections. And another guy I'm projecting. We need to. If there's some 2025 talk coming in the future, Jay, Ollie Gordon is he tops the list because he tops every list. But compare to some of these other guys. I mean, Corum, like I said, going to be drafted. I think Blake Watson. Isn't Blake Watson a prospect, or is he an under?
I don't think he did. I think he was in the mix because I think he did play. I think he played in the Shrine Bowl. But I don't know if he hit the combine. But I know he is a prospect for the draft.
Okay, yeah. So you got two other for sure draft pick, and then in 2025, the Boise kid and Ollie Gordon are going to be up there as well. So I mean, this is stiff competition. He was the 5th ranked fantasy running back in the country. So that's nothing to to scoff at. So I'm just impressed. I think where he would I don't know. I think he would have had, but you know what? If he was in Missouri's offense, if he was, Cody Schrader, because I think that's another place where it's a running back factory, or it's becoming like that. They just had that kid transfer. I forget what his name is, but Missouri just got another stud running back.
Yeah. Marcus Carroll.
Yep, Marcus Carroll. Yep.
So
I think Ray Davis might have been number 2 or 3 if he was playing in Missouri's system. With that offensive line, because Kentucky's. I don't know. Yeah, Kentucky doesn't do it for me, and who knows? Maybe what Will Levis? Was Will Levis or Tim Couch? Like, who the hell have been the Jared Lorenzen? Wasn't he the hefty lefty? Like, who the hell has come out of Kentucky in terms of like skill position guys?
Not a whole lot. That's for damn sure.
That bumps Ray up a little bit where he's coming from too. I was trying to watch my tongue because I wasn't totally trying to trash Kentucky because they got a great basketball program, but they don't really make skill position guys. Let's just be honest.
Yeah. Just a quick here. With his 300, and 300 some odd yards in the receiving game, that would kind of put him in the mix of Jahmyr Gibbs, Jerome Ford, Brian Robinson, maybe Jaylen Warren. You can low end Zeke, Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs. So you can kind of get an idea, with kind of mixing up between what even though we're just kind of I'm using some of his college stats, kind of plugging him in, with what guys did last year, kind of give or take. You kind of see, it's not a whole representative of what he can do or what he will do, but it just kind of gives you a ballpark idea of where, would we take him over a Jerome Ford or a Brian Robinson, guys like that, or a Jaylen Warren. I mean, those are all things to consider when thinking about a guy like this that's capable of taking it home in the pass game, being good in the open field, and I think
other than that, of those guys you listed, I think the only one that might be a little underrated is Brian Robinson from Washington, because we know they got a new coaching staff in there, and I don't like him as a head coach. I think Cliff Kingsbury is incompetent as a head coach, but he's a pretty good play caller. So that might improve Brian Robinson. But the other guy, I think he's gonna be better than Warren, and I forget the other guy I mentioned, but he's gonna be better than him too. Or Jerome Ford. Yep, he's gonna be better than Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford's a backup. Like, once Nick Chubb's healthy, he's not gonna see much playing time.
Yeah.
You got here his numbers compared to
just the combine numbers quick before we kind of wrap up here.
Yep.
I mean, he finished 10th in most of the run, in this running back, combine. I guess you can put it that way.
So
Jalen
and
Wright was pretty much yeah, yep.
that's those
It,
are, he's on the
with us
burner.
talking
So what?
about yeah,
I
I
think
just
I was gonna say, man, I think Keelan Robinson from Texas is gonna be a bust. If he's taken anywhere and similar to where Ray Davis is at, I think he's gonna be a bust. I think he's just a speed guy. Like I don't think you're ever gonna hear Keelan Robinson. Just because he runs a
yeah,
4.42, like it's not. That's why I'm not. I mean, it's good to compare and contrast. Like I like these kind of lists just to see where he falls. But number 10, there's a ton of running backs that come to this combine. So for his productivity and being the 10th fastest, I'm fine with that. I can live with Ray Davis running a 4.52.
yeah, I think so too as well. I think he can be a boomer bust kind of guy, but I mean he's got the talents. He could. We gave you guys the floor of him. What he could be and the bottom roll. His floor is too as well. So I mean, floor and ceiling. I guess I don't know what the hell I'm trying to say here, but it gives you a good idea of where he can fall, where you might. I I did a couple mock drafts, but I just don't remember where he went. I don't know if it was the 3rd round or 4th round, I don't remember offhand in, like a 12-man mock draft. I would have to go back and take a look at that, but that's for another time. But here those are just some quick if it did come down to, you know if I missed out on Jalen Wright or, I didn't really I know we haven't really looked into Trey Benson, but if it had to come down to, Ray Davis landing with the Vikings, I guess I would take a risk and, maybe, if I needed some depth on my dynasty team, I would try to maybe snag him in the 2nd or 3rd round in a dynasty league.
Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely, yeah. Depth at the very least, depth. I mean, this guy's
Yeah.
gonna see some major playing time. He's gonna be a guy you're calling up on your dynasty team real quick.
Yep.
I really, especially with I think the Texans, like I said, Texans and Vikings. I didn't include them on the list, but the Vikings are another spot where he could see some playing time real quick. Especially if the Vikings go with a guy like Saquon. Let's say I know he's not, he's not rumored to go there, but like the Vikings signed Saquon Barkley. Do we all really trust Saquon's health? I mean, really? After all these years, I don't.
Right.
And Ty Chandler, he could beat him out. Like Ray Davis could. There's a couple spots where he could factor his way in and be one of these surprise rookie, like 1,000-yard, 1,100-yard running backs where you're like, whoa, where'd this come from?
Yep.
Easily
Yeah,
see that.
for sure. Yeah, I think that kind of wraps up all of our Ray Davis talk. Hopefully everybody enjoyed what we kind of presented to you. It gives you some highs and lows, 5 teams, just some fantasy outlook and whatnot, and just our overall thoughts of what he could be and what he can't be. And if you guys haven't, make sure you guys, if you want to join our Discord, the Discord link is actually in the bottom. Make sure you guys give us a follow on Spotify, Apple, and all your Google Play, for all those audio podcasts as well. And I do actually have a link for StreamYard. If you guys like what you guys see here, here's a link down below in the description. If you guys are looking to start up your own channel or anything like that, you guys can use, my link to sign up and it helps us out too as well for referrals and stuff like that too. So if you're thinking about maybe starting your own channel and whatnot, use my link below. It'll help us. It'll help us out a lot to keep this kind of going too as well. So, I mean, other than that, we will actually have another stream here too, maybe Friday or Saturday with a guest. I'm not gonna say who, but we're gonna dive into Troy Franklin from
History.
yes, it'll be a mystery, but we will cover Troy Franklin from the Ducks. So we're gonna jump on, talk about him, and yeah. So hopefully I'll get that all up and going. And I'm not sure if it'll be Friday or Saturday, but it'll be one of those 2 days. So just stay tuned for that live stream to pop up in our feed. If you guys want to, subscribe to our channel and hit that bell for notifications, so when we actually go live.
Yeah, and we're always down to chop it up too. If you guys have channels out there, or hey, I got a buddy that has a football channel. He talks college. Talks Pro. Like we're, like I said, we're and we come together in a package here. So you sign up for one, you got to get both. So we'll come on. We're like Bert and Ernie. We'll come on, and chop it up. And I think in the Troy Franklin's coming up, and a couple guys that I'm thinking of doing, and I'll see what Jay wants to do as well. We'll kind of combine. I'm thinking Spencer Rattler, because he's been a hot name since the Senior Bowl, and I think he's going to be he could be a potential Purdy. Not I don't know if he's going to be that level. 32 touchdowns and Super Bowl, all that kind of stuff, but could be that late round guy that has some success in the NFL if he gets to see the light of day. So Rattler, and then there's I think I'd like to do another tight end, especially with what happened with Carolina. See if we can pull up another tight end, and then there's always the possibility of doing another running back or receiver. So we probably have, after Troy Franklin, we probably do a handful more of these.
For sure, we're gonna try to pump out as many as we can before the draft.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, I think that's it. We appreciate everybody that viewed. A few comments there. We appreciate that. But yeah, just make sure you guys like and subscribe and jump in our Discord. It's links in the description below. So, well, from Odd Rhythm, I'm Jamie. That's Eli. We'll see you guys next time. Later.